All right. We need to see if this is working. I don't even know how. Oh, hang on. All right. Hey, let's go. So, let's get the audio. I don't even know. Yep. How. Sweet, 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 sweet. Awesome. Hey, YouTube, we are live for like literally the first time ever, okay, on this platform. So in the future, like any gaming videos and stuff like that, if you subscribe to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv slash twitch.luciuscreamin.tv or something like that. Either way, whatever the hell the handle is. I'll get some overlays or something at some point for this specifically so that I can kind of broadcast that information, maybe put it in the description of the video. I'm going to get better at this as we go on, like I keep promising. And that said, we're ready to fucking rock. First time live on YouTube. We're talking college football. We're talking it later than the last time you guys saw me. And for the record, no, I haven't been hiding. Yes, I am still a Washington Huskies fan after what transpired last Saturday. And the reason is because there's only two kinds of people that don't run from their problems in life: gangsters and fat people. I'm still a dog. I'm a dog for life. Anyway, great news for my dogs. They're off this weekend, so I don't have to stress or, spend any sleepless nights wondering what my Huskies have become since going to the national championship last year. But let's talk about some other teams that are not going to the national championship. And that is the Tuesday slate that already took place. If you're here with us live, I don't have to tell you what day it is anymore because I'm not pre-recording these. We're just going to go live with all of them. Okay. So yeah, Tuesday, there's some games that were played. Kind of like last week, the Tuesday slate was a conglomeration of teams that I didn't have enough, of an opinion on them, which is code for I don't really know much about these teams. What's going on? What's going on? I'm getting. Okay, open the widget and. I'm so confused. Okay. Whatever that was. Let's just say. Okay, now this is all giving me some weird notifications. Look, guys, bear with us. We're doing this for the first time ever. All right, cool. I think we're good. Everybody should be able to hear me because I've already tested it and I know I can hear myself. So back to Tuesday. Okay. Just like last Tuesday, it was a conglomeration of teams that I didn't really have any strong opinions about because AKA I did not really know much about these teams. And a couple of them came back for this Tuesday. Okay. We had South Alabama. We had Kennesaw State. I think the biggest shock here is I kind of maybe thought Troy was going to be able to put up a little bit more points against South Alabama based off of how they'd kind of been playing recently. But South Alabama is quite easily the best team in the Conference USA right now, for my money. But yeah, no, I mean, Kennesaw State against Middle Tennessee was just an absolute bucket of yuck. And then La Tech going down to New Mexico State. I was talking about this a few weeks ago about how I like the Bronco Mendenhall hire there and that I expect him to do good things. They had a really good game earlier in the season where I was like, hey, look. He might already have them a year early on this rebuild. And then they just kind of laid some successive eggs. And then last night, Louisiana Tech comes in heavily favored. I want to believe it was like a two possession favorite. And New Mexico State takes them to overtime and wins 33-30. Love that. Love that for the Aggies. Then we go on to Wednesday. And, I should pull this up because I could do that. So then Wednesday we had Western Kentucky at Sam Houston and FIU at UTEP. Both of these games were just very weird to me. Okay, like I knew Western Kentucky had the ability to put up points against Sam Houston State. I guess I sort of expected Sam Houston State to put up more of a fight, and a 31-14 final score tells me everything I need to know about the level of fight they were essentially game for. Yeah, just an odd game. And then FIU had this game against UTEP close for a while. They're just like, I remember going into halftime, it was like, I may not know much about these teams other than they're both pretty terrible. And I guess that's a justifying, reason for the score to be close. But like, I listen to people that know more about this than me, and like the talk around the two programs is like UTEP bad, FIU whew, like takes your breath away how bad FIU has been playing so far this year. They lose the game, but yeah, 30-21, FIU with a little bit more of a pulse than I would have given them credit for. Tonight we've got Georgia State Marshall and Boston College Virginia Tech. I don't really have a bead on the Georgia State Marshall game. I will say Boston College, Virginia Tech. I like Calandria at Boston College. I like Bashal Tootin at Virginia Tech. Kyron Jones has been a little underwhelming this season. He's doing okay. And if you actually look at like ACC standings right now, you start to kind of look at Virginia Tech and think to yourself like, oh, hello. Sorry about that. You sit here and you think like, this is the team that lost to Vandy, right? Why are they that high on the conference leaderboard? Well, because guess what? Vandy wasn't a conference game, nor was it a conference loss. And Vautech is right there in the mix. I'm really more concerned about Friday. Okay. I've heard certain podcasts, outlets, channels, whatever you want to call them, looking at this weekend as a potential, like, I don't want to say like a gotcha weekend, but it's kind of like one of those where you feel really comfortable looking at a lot of these matchups on the schedule, and then you sit down and you just like have that moment of clarity where you're like, oh no, I shouldn't be feeling good. This is college football. Anytime you think you know exactly what's going to happen, fade those emotions. Okay. And that's sort of the sentiment, right? Is that there's some games that look like, oh yeah, like for sure. Like, and then you look to the next game and you're like, oh yeah, no, yeah, makes sense. And then like you're 5 or 6 games in and you've kept agreeing with every point total, odds spread, like, and then again, you come to the end of the line, and now it's like this unsettling pit feeling in your stomach. What am I talking about? I'm droning at this point. Guys, Oregon goes on the road to play Purdue. Now, again, I'm very conscious of my surroundings and what I'm wearing. So I will try to word this in a way where Duck fans will not they will not hate me for the words I speak. They will simply hate me for the colors I wear. Oregon fans, agree or disagree? We are now in the part of the season where you've done the things that tell you this is going to be an outstanding season, and you're waiting for the trip up, the 3-possession lead against Stanford melting away and fumbling the ball when all you needed to do is kneel it out, the going on the road and losing to Arizona State. Like, we're there now because all the boxes have been checked. And yet there's still a lot of football to play. So Oregon currently a 28.5-point favorite in this game. Purdue has been I'll just say it. Purdue has been an absolute train wreck. They put up a great fight against a good Illinois team last weekend. Was that a look ahead spot for Illinois, overlooking their opponent? Is the quarterback change at Purdue bearing fruit? Is there somewhere in the middle of all three of those that we kind of arrive at the truth? I don't know. And I'll say what I do think I know is that Oregon, under Dan Lanning, has yet to find themselves in the traditional Oregon letdown position. You lost to some pretty good football teams in his tenure so far. There hasn't been like a game where it's like, absolutely, you should have won that. Like, I'm sure Duck fans probably feel differently about the road loss to Oregon State 2 years ago, but that Oregon State team wasn't half bad. Okay, they had really good O-line play, a great rushing attack. Ben Branson had to do just enough, right? This is one of those years now where it's like there's not much else on the schedule that should challenge you based off of what you proved at home last weekend. So what are we going to do? Okay. Are we going to bounce back? Are we going to cover this point total? Are we going to lose? Like, I don't know. My gut tells me no. My gut also tells me maybe take the points with Purdue because Oregon might shift gears and go back to a bit more of a conservative approach now. Now that we know they have those haymakers like programmed into the team, like they were legitimately guilty of the same thing that a lot of other teams, I guess, get credit for early season that Oregon hasn't really gotten the roses for themselves as of late. And that's the whole, like, they were in a position where they knew their season didn't start until they hosted Ohio State in week 7. Sorry. So they hit a lot. I mean, Evan Stewart coming out there and doing what he did against Ohio State, like, we hadn't seen that at all this season up until that point. Like, they did not pull that out in any way, shape, or form in any of their previous games, and they did what they had to do to get an undefeated record to that game. And they pulled out all the stops, and it paid off. So congrats to them. That's my official reaction to the Ohio State game, by the way. There's obviously some Ohio State things that I could talk about, and I'd be glad to some other time or under different conditions or circumstances. But my general takeaway is just that Oregon answered the bell. Like, a lot of people were kind of on fraud watch and like, is Ohio State just going to absolutely expose them? I thought Ohio State was going to have a chance to make it a 2-possession win. I really did think that Oregon was a great football team. I just thought Ohio State, and I said this during my Week 7 preview video, is like, I just can't bet against this roster. This roster is absolutely nutty, especially on defense. And Denzel Burke and that Ohio State secondary didn't look so elite Saturday night. So, yeah, very interested in that game. The Florida State-Duke one is one that, like, Duke -3 home favorite, essentially a coin toss game on a neutral field. I understand the FSU fade given what's transpired so far this season, but, like, we saw some promising things with Brock Glenn under center, even in the Clemson loss. They're coming off of a bye week. I can't say enough about their defense and where they're going to stand moving forward, but I do at least think the offense is going to give that side of the ball a spark. And hopefully the second order effect of that is that if the offense starts clicking and humming, maybe the defense salvages some semblance of hope and can start playing better more consistently. A lot of ifs here, right? A lot of hmms and a lot of, well, if I was betting on this game, I would take Florida State. Because Duke has so far made their record off of facing a pretty staggering number of backup quarterbacks, meaning like a lot of the teams that they have won against have been starting backup quarterbacks due to injury or maybe just making a quarterback change in general. Um, I still think they score on FSU, but I think FSU might have a few tricks, not tricks, but like a few more tools in the tool case now that they've made the quarterback change. It showed promise, and now Mike Norvell's had an extra week to essentially install an offense around Brock Glenn. That's really my vibe. Like, I trust him as a play caller. I think that the DJ Uyunglele experiment was something that a lot of people could have pointed out as like, this is like a high risk, like high reward situation, because he has been demonstrably average throughout his career. Like, yeah, I don't want to speak too ill of like Mike Norvell's talent evaluation or anything like that, because like that's one instance. I mean, he had a pretty damn good roster built through the portal that I personally think should have gone to the college football playoff last year, just off of merit. But the SEC had to make it, right? No, I'm serious. But yeah, no, I don't want to necessarily crucify Norvell for one mistake in the portal era, whereas, you know, there's a lot of teams that are guilty of the same thing, essentially. Their records don't look as bad. So I don't want to like pile on FSU. It's been a very disappointing season. Like, I made a comment, after they lost to Georgia Tech in Ireland. I was like, dude, if you're going to spend the whole off season crying, foul and saying that you should have been in the playoff, like, do not under any circumstances lose to Georgia Tech in your opening game of the season. Like, and it just got worse and worse from there. So just been really disappointing as a Floridian, those who know, but I'll let you guys unpack that one. But yeah, no, I guess I kind of expect more, even if I'm not necessarily a fan or have really any vested interest in the program's success. Yeah, I would take Florida State in this one. It's not so much a vibes pick than it is an expectation of turnaround. So yeah, Oklahoma State, BYU. If I have a line on this, it's probably take the point total over, because if Mike Gundy does not come out of an extra week to prepare and at least have some version of this offense prepared to put up points, when we've seen them capable of doing it, they have an excellent receiver core. We don't need to talk about Ollie Gordon, because that has been the letdown of the season, I think, so far in terms of individual player expectations. That said, whoever's starting at quarterback, because I think we're going to see a couple go out there and take some snaps. I just think that they have to have some sort of a game script installed that's going to see them to at least take some shots. And we know BYU is going to be putting up points. And Provo at night is usually just a wild atmosphere. So yeah, I like the over point total, and I would probably take BYU money line. I don't know if I would take the spread. So yeah. And then Fresno State, Nevada, I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. These are two teams. I mean, it's Fresno State -3 on the road, right? Makes them almost a touchdown favorite on a neutral field. Swing that almost 10 points with home field favorability factored in on their behalf, right? So Vegas, thinks if the sites were swapped, right, Fresno State's a 2-possession favorite over Nevada. Is Nevada really the atmosphere that I think is going to actually swing those 3 points? No. And Wolfpack fans, please at me, if I'm wrong. But Fresno State's also just been another one of those disappointing teams, maybe not to the degree of FSU. It's just like, I thought when Jeff Tedford retired that there was at least going to be enough of him left within that roster, within that team, within that staff, that would make this one of the contenders for the Mountain West, especially with Mikey Keene and some offensive weapons returning. But clearly I was wrong. It's been disappointing, and Nevada's actually shown an ability to put up points. So we move on to Saturday, where more exciting things follow. We're going to do this as we've done before, where I'm going to basically talk the 11 a.m. slate ranked games, 2:30 ranked games, evening and nighttime ranked games, if any, and then we circle back to the top. Go. As far as locks of the week, we are going to do something a little different this time. We're going to pick them live rather than them already kind of being pre-programmed into the spreadsheet. See how that does. But starting right off the top, we got number 6 Miami on the road against Louisville. I have been high on Tyler Shough, the quarterback for Louisville. I really like him when he's healthy, in particular, given that he has suffered, I believe, 3 season-ending injuries in a row over the last 3 seasons. So the fact that he's still standing and capable of utilizing the talents that he has, and also having a halfway decent receiver room, that's been nice. Do I think that this Louisville defense can do enough to put Miami in an uncomfortable spot? Yes. That said, I also know that Miami had a team-only meeting during the bye week. And a lot of people might like roll their eyes on that. I think there is some inherent value to having the player leadership in your locker room that can walk into the head coach's office and say, we're going to handle this one on our own. And I think that the misconception might be that the player only meeting was to specifically discuss the last 2 straight weeks of close games against teams that they verifiably should have dominated. I think that's part of it. I guess I like to assume that, you know, whoever the captain is that called the meeting is just saying something like, guys, like, we're not playing to our full potential. We're not going to dwell on those games. We just need to focus on executing for 4 quarters moving forward in every game. And like, this team can coast to the ACC championship, right? Like, as long as we're putting in the work, as long as we're making sure that we're not getting complacent, we have the roster, we have the dudes to do the damn thing. And for that reason, like, I am leaning Miami in this game. I think that the disappointing show that we got from Louisville against SMU. Yawn counter. There we go. We got 1. Damn, I was doing good. I thought I was going to make it out. The fact that Louisville had that disappointing show against SMU really did put it like it hampered my expectations a little bit, I think, because I was watching that game live too, and I was just kind of seeing some stuff. It's like, man, like, there's a side to this team that I didn't exactly have on my bingo card, and I didn't like what I was seeing. I was like, okay, if we're capable of this, like, maybe I need to like reel in my expectations for the Cards a little bit. A game I do really like, Clemson versus Virginia. I'm just all aboard Clemson right now. Minus 20.5 point favorite as home, the home team here. Virginia's not great. And yeah, no, I don't know if I take the points, but like, not taking the points with Clemson as of late would probably be an unwise decision from your bookie's perspective. So, yeah, maybe you do. I would probably just take Clemson money line myself because I'm a coward. But, yeah, no, I mean, it's in contention for lock of the week. Moving on to the next game, which I find very interesting, which is Nebraska on the road at 16th ranked and undefeated Indiana. I'll tell you what I know about these two teams, okay? And we'll start with the ranked team. We'll talk about Indiana. I know that Curt Cignetti is an absolute dog at head coach. Okay. My man's does not simply like killing what he eats, he butchers it. Like it he was on the Pat McAfee show this past week, and this man said, like, I told him, we got to go out there. We're going to execute. Okay. We ain't going to do any of these early away game, rituals where we leave 4 days. Like, no, y'all got class. You got to go to class. We're going to get on a plane Friday night. We're going to show up. We're going to take the night, rest up. We'll do our walkthrough Saturday morning, kick their ass, get on a plane, go home. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's the gist of what he said. And I was like, can I go play for him? Can I go play for him? I like this guy. Like that guy a lot. Just one problem. Nebraska's getting their star linebacker back this week. He's essentially the quarterback of their defense, which even in his absence has still not been terrible. The concern is Nebraska's offense, okay? Lil Cuz, as Pat Mahomes likes to refer to him, Dylan Raiola is a true freshman. I'm not saying that because I'm just trying to state a fact. I'm saying that because I'm trying to sort of characterize his behavior and some decision making that we've seen from him so far. And he is learning real quickly. This is going to be a kid kind of like Quinn Ewers. And if people are familiar enough with his career to kind of know where I'm going with this, like, he's going to be another, like, if he's smart, if he, and I'm sure he's an outstanding young man. I haven't heard anything else to tell me otherwise. So I'm not want to make this a character attack. Okay. This is an 18-year-old kid that has an idol and is trying to emulate him. I'm just saying that maybe reel that in a little bit and focus on developing as a player, because some of these tendencies that you're showing right now have actually put your team in trouble. So that's all I'm saying. And like, it's backed by the statistics, right? Because like this offense has essentially seized 2 weeks in a row now. I don't let the box score of the Purdue game like mislead you. Like, people will look at the points on that game and be like, so Nebraska just like throttled them, right? No, that is not what happened. And if a Nebraska fan or a player tries to tell me otherwise, okay, pack a lunch, son, because I watched that game start to finish, and if you did too, we gonna have a little chit chat about your bias. So anywho, yeah, I think Nebraska's defense can be something that Indiana and their undersized receivers like have not matched up against yet. So if I were to lean anything, I'd probably lean under, but I still think Indiana wins, just because I don't like enough of what I've seen from Nebraska's offense to tell me that this version of Nebraska's offense is going to be able to go point for point with what I assume Curt Cignetti's defense is going to be capable of, even against this higher level defense. So yeah, I would bet the under on that game. Auburn on the road against Missouri. I don't know what we're doing anymore with the Missouri Tigers. I posted it 2 weeks ago. This is my biggest Y team right now in the top 25, as if to say, hey, Missouri's ranked 19th in the country. And I'm just like, why? Missouri does not have what we thought it had. Or at the very least, Missouri is not putting what they have on the field in an acceptable enough manner for me to agree that having what they have is worth it. Simple enough? Okay, let me go a little bit more complicated but in depth with it. We lose Cody Schrader at running back, which is a big loss, okay, but Nate Noel has been largely absent the last 2 weeks, okay? You got your other running back who's not bad, okay, but he can't carry the team. You don't have the offensive line for it, number one. Number two, Brady Cook looks off under center. Like he's just not the same Brady Cook that we saw last year in these shootout games that they played, you know, really taking control of this team and being a leader. And then you have Theo Weiss and Luther Burden out wide, and they're hit or miss. Yeah, I don't understand what's going on with this team. Auburn's another one where it's just kind of like, I mean, I didn't think you were going to be good. I just didn't think you were going to be this bad. That's a game I'm not touching because I don't think anybody knows enough about Missouri's ceiling, because their perceived ceiling going into the season was way higher than what they've demonstrated so far. So I think for people to try and pretend that they like have an accurate understanding of what Missouri is capable of right now is kind of silly. And then Auburn is like one of those teams where, or should I just say more concisely, like Hugh Freeze as a head coach has historically been this guy that will just have these like egg on face losses, and then he'll beat Bama, right? Like, and the thing is, he did that before at Ole Miss, but he's come pretty close, right, to those level of upsets like 2 years in a row now. Just hasn't been able to close. Like, I mean, that's typical Hugh Freeze behavior. So on account of both of those things, like, what the hell am I, like, what side am I taking right now? Missouri's favored by 4. Again, why? Like, I don't know anything about this team. And I think anybody that's sitting here trying to, like, comb through the analytics and be like, we've got Missouri, we got them figured out. Okay, cool. Better you than me, I guess. I just realized I don't even have my chat like turned the heck on. And I do have an extra viewer right now. It might be nice to talk to him. It's giving me some time to wet my whistle as well. Yep, that's me trying to sign in. Yep, that's the number. All right. And we're going to do that right there. Yep, love that. All right, cool. This is me in the chat. Boom. Okay, moving on. Army's going to absolutely obliterate East Carolina. Not going to spend too much time on that one. I am a little interested that the point spread is only -16 in Army's favor. I guess maybe the idea being that, yes, they are way more explosive than they have been in years past, but this is still the triple option, even if it's like spicy triple option. So yeah, not going to linger too long on that one. Let's talk about one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game of the weekend, depending on the fan base I'm talking to at the time. And this is Bama at Tennessee. Okay. Last time Bama went up to Knoxville, we all saw it. Goalpost came down. Josh Pate has freaking suffered from smoke inhalation because of the amount of cigars that were being lit in the stadium post game. We'll talk about strengths and weaknesses of both team. Okay, so we'll start with Bama, who is currently favored at -3 right now. And they are basically Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams go kill. I am aware of the fact that Justice Haynes is averaging, I think it's like 8 yards per carry technically, but he's not. This is tough to explain, and I think anybody that's watched Bama would like know what I'm getting at here, but the run game outside of Jalen Milroe does not look explosive the way that you would expect an Alabama run game to look, is essentially what I'm saying. Like 8 yards per carry sounds good. There's just something baked into that number that doesn't translate to the visual experience of watching this team play. And so the offense has largely relied on Jalen Milroe to be the best player on the field every offensive drive, right? There's nothing wrong with Jalen being the best player on the field. It's just that the supporting cast around him needs to be more complementary and more multiple as well. In the sense that, like, again, in terms of downfield receiving threats, like it's Ryan Williams or bust. Like, people are gonna throw the yellow flag and say, well, what about Jeremy Bernard? What about Jeremy Bernard? Okay. He has shown the ability to be a playmaker and a viable weapon in certain situations, just like he did at Washington last year. But he hasn't stepped up and assumed like a wide receiver 2 type role. So, yeah, no. And then this defense for Alabama, it's statistically one of the worst defenses they've had in like 10 years. Their secondary got exposed in the second half of the Georgia game, and they continued to get exposed last week against South Carolina. Because Lenore Sellers, news alert, not the greatest quarterback right now. Believe he's only a true sophomore or a redshirt freshman. Like, it was his first year starting, and he was able to drop some dimes in the Alabama secondary. And I got news for you: the Tennessee offense has not been performing that great as of late, because I think the offensive line might not be as good as we thought it was. But Nico Iamaleava is a pretty damn good quarterback, even if the stat line doesn't show it. Like, this is a guy that has shown an ability to, if not the consistency to, but the ability to carve up a secondary. So what do I think is going to happen? Oh, I forgot the other side of the ball for Tennessee. The defense is pretty good. And I think pretty good might not be the most appropriate or highest level praise word that I could choose with regard to characterizing this defense. Stand by. Spam and detected. Spam. Yum. But no, the defense is good. The offense has been on shaky legs for 2 weeks now. Bama's offense has basically 2 people it can rely on a consistent basis to win games for them, while their defense has shown to be the largest liability the team possesses. So what do I think happens? I hope the donors are prepared to pay for another goalpost, because I think Tennessee wins. And I think if there's a pick that I feel more confident in this game, it's taking the over 56.5. I think Kalen DeBoer will be in his bag for this game, much in the same way that he was against Georgia. I think Tennessee and Nico are going to do enough to expose this Alabama secondary. And I think their defense is going to be good enough that even with DeBoer going into his bag, the fact that Jalen and Ryan Williams have been the most consistent playmakers, I think Tennessee's defense is going to be able to zero in on that. South Carolina showed a successful plan with Ryan Williams last weekend, and where they essentially just funneled him away from all the action. And Tennessee can do that. It's not a terribly difficult assignment, especially given who we've already seen execute it. And I think they're going to be able to contain Jalen Milroe too, and force those running backs to step up and show what an 8-yard per carry player should look like. And given all that information, give me the home underdog all day in this one. Might be one of my picks of the week. We'll see. Notre Dame over Georgia Tech. I don't know that Georgia Tech is going to possess enough offense to keep up with what Notre Dame has essentially evolved into. I like that the playbook has shifted to kind of like Alabama, right? But except there's really no true number one receiver, whereas Notre Dame has really just sort of been like, we're going to put the game in Riley Leonard's hands with all of his tools and dare you to stop us. And it's going pretty well. The problem is their defense. We've lost some key contributors. That offensive line is still young and inexperienced, but they've had the schedule so far. You know, obviously Northern Illinois got them right. That still happened. But they've had a schedule so far that has permitted them to essentially bully most people that they play just due to a physical size disparity. So we'll see. We'll see. I like Notre Dame in that one. That might be one that ends up on a betting sheet at some point this weekend. We'll see. And then a game I'm really, really excited for. Michigan on the road, taking on the Illinois Fighting Illini in Champaign. Give me the over 44.5 in this game. And let me explain why. We all saw Jack Tuttle come out in the Washington game. And there were flashes in that game where Husky fans were like, oh no, we haven't planned for this. We don't have anything installed to take care of this right now. And he was playing pretty good. I mean, I watched him have some pretty solid decision making throughout that game. I know a lot of people are just going to remember the pick that sealed the game away, but go back and watch the tape. Like, there was that drive right after the halftime when he came in was almost flawlessly executed. And I was sitting back and I'm like, oh no, here we go. Awesome. They're going to come back now and we're fucked. Like, that was literally how I thought about it. So I want to believe, I want to learn to love again. I want to say that I think Michigan could be improved on offense. And we know how much improvement Illinois saw over the offseason. I think that Luke Altmaier is doing a lot of great things at quarterback. I think that losing Fagan at running back is going to be a problem, but they have Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin out wide, and they are well enough coached that I think the backup running back is going to be able to at least poke at Michigan's defensive front, if not have as much success as maybe the starter would have. But like, I think it's going to be enough given, again, like I talked about this at great length during my live watching of the Washington game. Like, I think that they're going to be a team that has the ability to threaten Michigan with being in a situation where they have to play from behind, which their offense, even with Jack Tuttle, like, it's going to resemble a little bit more to what you saw last season with JJ McCarthy, I think, right? And if that's the case, it's not like they played at a blistering pace last year. This is still going to be a grind your bones to make their bread type team. I just think that they might have enough improvement to make this game interesting to the point where Michigan being favored by -3.5. I said I wanted to learn to love again. And I know a lot of people thought I was talking about the Wolverines. But I ain't never going to forget what happened in Houston last year. Give me the Illini. Money line, point spread, don't care. Give me Illinois. I pumped all that hope just for this moment. Give me Illinois. Navy's going to beat Charlotte. I'm not talking anymore about that one. It's happening. If it doesn't, I don't care. Going to 2:30. There are exactly 0 ranked games in the 2:30 slate. Oh, we got a 3:15 Texas A&M over Mississippi State. Mississippi State showing some promise with the new quarterback coming in the Jeff Levy system. Do I think it's enough to beat Texas A&M? Crazier things have happened because I'm also not completely sold on Texas A&M yet. It is great that they did what they did to Missouri, but again, Missouri is a Y team. So Mississippi State was able to put Georgia on skates for a little bit last week, even if they ultimately lost. Is Texas A&M going to be equally equipped to respond to that if that's what Mississippi State puts on the field on Saturday? I don't know. Don't feel confident enough about it. Another game that's just kind of like crapshoot, LSU on the road on Arkansas. Do you know that the last 6 meetings of this game have been decided by exactly 3 points? LSU and Arkansas. Yeah, it's a rivalry game. But it's Arkansas. I guess it just means more. Little facial twitch there. Oh. This line's getting bet to Arkansas. This was -3.5 LSU. It's -2.5 now. That's interesting. That means that a lot of people are kind of the same sentiment as me, where it's just like, let's go either way. And I think for that reason, it might be my coin toss game of the week. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll talk about it more there. You know what? I'll say... I think I know what I'm going to do with that one now. Okay. Skipping forward to Austin at Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium. There's been a concerning number of people that have been essentially like flat out saying that there's like Texas wins this game. And I don't know if it is in a hope to preserve as many like definitive elite teams this season. And what I mean by that is like there's narratives that can get built into college football, right? And like there's always the narrative of like this is an elite team and the front runner for the national championship. And while Oregon gets the win against Ohio State, I think that a lot of people, like there's not a lot of people that are declaring Oregon as elite, right? Given what we've seen from them so far this season and the fact that we were going into last weekend saying that neither team had really been tested. So Texas is really the only team that, while the argument still stands, that have they really like been legitimately tested, especially on defense. Do we want to so readily dismiss them by picking Georgia, who roster for roster, right? They're highly comparable. It's just that Georgia has like shown its bad spots this year, whereas Texas hasn't yet. Assuming, of course, that they have any. That's kind of the point, right? So how does that make me feel? Like there's that many people that are confident with one team and they're like, little job is to talk about this stuff where it's just a hobby for me. Like that, I think that would normally make me feel like, man, maybe Texas really just is that good, right? And I might be crazy for this, but I'm gonna agree. I look at what Georgia has shown me so far this year. Ooh. Number two, got it down. Yeah, I just look at what Georgia's shown me so far this year, and I think that if last week had been a more like dominant victory on the field than what we saw on paper, right? I might have like altered my expectations of this game. But we've seen it 3 times now. We've seen it against Kentucky, we saw it against Bama, and we saw it against Mississippi State last weekend. This is a heavily flawed Georgia team compared to previous Georgia teams. And I think that while we shouldn't be punishing them for not being that team, we should be punishing them for the team that they are right now. We should also elevate our expectations to a level that is consistent with what we have seen so far from them this season, as opposed to what we have seen from them in previous seasons. I hope that makes sense. Like I want to look at this Georgia team as this Georgia team, not the Georgia we come to expect because of what has happened before. Not those Georgias. Those Georgias don't exist anymore. Those players aren't on the team, right? Not all of them, at least. So we have to judge this team for what we've seen so far. And in so many things in life, like you would call somebody foolish for essentially betting on something that has happened in the past a handful of times, and shown promise, because there's variability in everything. And just because they had a good stretch, I think a lot of people assumed, especially with Nick Saban retiring, that that stretch was going to turn into an endless dynasty. Maybe with the current parity in college football created by the portal, the real answer is just that more of these great programs are going to have windows. They're going to have windows in their talent development and roster construction to essentially say, like, we're playing for this year. I think on the Georgia and like the Texas side of things, it's more of like a multiple years window where they're going to build to a point that makes them feel like they can sustain that level of output. So they'll get a little bit of a handicap, you know, as opposed to like the rest of the nation in that regard. But I think this is just like a year where they ain't got it. Not yet. Not from this roster. They got a lot, but they don't have everything that they were expecting. Texas -5. I'll take it. I'll take the points. Give me Texas. I'm never picking against Iowa State again after getting just violently burned by them last week. UCF does not like to play pass defense very well. Rocco Becht is the quarterback of all quarterbacks, and there will never be another one like him, which is a very fancy way of saying that he gets a lot of high praise from a lot of people in the industry. And I don't want to necessarily say that I don't see why. It's just I don't see anything remarkable from him. It's not to say he's not a good quarterback, and I guess it's like this old school sentiment of like Iowa State being a darling candidate coming out of the Big 12. And now they just happen to have a quarterback under center that's not useless and has a kind of cool name. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm an asshole. Iowa State's favored by 13.5 points right now. And I like that. So give me Iowa State. Kansas State on the road to West Virginia. Well, West Virginia was hosting Iowa State last week in Morgantown, and I predicted that to be a factor in their upset, which never happened, by the way, because Iowa State beat the absolute brakes off of them. And I think Kansas State does the same thing. I'm not going to punish Kansas State with expectations as something that I've seen from Iowa State already, an Iowa State team that I think if they and Kansas State lined up on neutral field today, I'd probably pick Kansas State, quite frankly. So that's one way to look at it. Yeah, just give me Kansas State. SMU at Stanford. Give me SMU. Money line. I don't know about the points. Ashton Jainty is... Oh, no, he was supposed to be coming back last week against Notre Dame, I believe. Some trip in there. I think I got that right. Yeah, no. Give me SMU at the very least. Money line. I think points is a little bold at 16.5. So I'm not really going to touch that. Okay, now we're going to go back up. We've covered all the ranked matchups we want to talk about. Let's go top to bottom and talk about the Saturday slate of games from an unranked opponent perspective. Look for Wisconsin to continue rolling against Northwestern, in my personal opinion. I think Rutgers at UCLA at Rutgers. Rutgers currently favored -4 as a home betting favorite. I don't know that I've seen anything from UCLA to tell me that this game shouldn't be more in Rutgers' favor. I'm not saying that Rutgers has shown like absolute perfection again, but I just think they've been demonstrably better than UCLA in terms of the product they've been putting on the field. So I like the Scarlet Knights a bit more than this one. As far as Arizona State, Cincinnati, this will be Sam Levitt will be out injured. I don't remember the time frame for that, but they're going to be turning to Jeff Sims. Yes, still in college, quarterback for Nebraska last year that had more turnovers than he did pass attempts, I think. Jeff Sims. I have a lot of respect for Kenny Dillingham, head coach Arizona State. He is an absolute pistol and very, very passionate about his alma mater and what he has the potential to do there. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it with Jeff Sims under center unless he has done some truly magnificent cleanup work. But the fact of the matter is that Sam Levitt, I believe, is a true freshman or a redshirt freshman. And if Jeff Sims, in as many years he has in college football, wasn't able to beat him out in one off season with Kenny Dillingham coaching him, I think we know what we need to know about Jeff Sims by now. And I'll leave it at that. Give me Cincinnati. South Carolina, Oklahoma. OU favor is 1.5 point favorite at home. Yeah, I'm not even touching that. Not even touching that. Ooh, battle between Houston and Kansas. That's a little interesting just because, Houston has shown some improvement, but still wildly disappointing in their conference. And Kansas just let down of the year, maybe. Like, a lot of people talking about them being a Big 12, contender, and not exactly how it's going so far. But hey, you still have Devin Neal. He's pretty good. Just needs your quarterback situation to kind of figure out what life is. What do we have? We have the third yawn of the video is what we have. There's this little triplet of games here that like I don't hate. I'm just trying to think like how I want to word what I want to say about them. These are all 6 teams that I've seen good things from so far this year, and I think that if I had to pick the 2 most impressive, it's right here in USC and Colorado. Arizona has been wildly disappointing. Baylor has shown flashes and what a lot of people expected to be Dave Aranda's last season, and now I feel less confident about that, given the fight that they've seen. And I believe it's Silas Roberson is their starting quarterback. Robertson, something like that. Kid's been putting up some numbers. Same thing kind of true for Billy Edwards Jr. in Maryland, right? Like have shown an ability to put up points, and have some pretty good options at wide receiver in Felton and Fagan. Not Fagan. Felton and no, it's no. I'm thinking of Am I thinking of Illinois' running back? Stand by. Prather, that's what it is. Jesus. That was embarrassing. Was so off on that. So Prather, right? Felton being the much more productive option, right, than Prather. We saw that when Felton was kind of out for a majority of their game 2 weeks ago. That Prather didn't really assume that wide receiver 1 role with a lot of success. In USC, I really do still enjoy Miller Moss. I think that he's a good leader for their team. I think that he's got a lot of spunk and the amount of damage and punishment that he's been taking in these losses in particular. I like USC in this game. I like Colorado against Arizona. I like Texas Tech and Baron Morton and that good passing attack. And also Josh Brooks, their running back. I just like Texas Tech over Baylor, even though I think Baylor has an opportunity to make this a little bit more interesting. I mean, the point total kind of says it for you, like 55.5. Like could be swinging heavily in either team's favor, or it could just be a really hotly contested 3 touchdowns a piece kind of game. So yeah, Nito Tostito. Ball State is going to get absolutely demolished by Vanderbilt. UNLV Oregon State. That should be a fun game for the nightcap. And then TCU Utah. So Cam Rising is officially dead. That was a body double that they had on the sidelines and in the game last week. He's decomposing in a shallow grave somewhere in Salt Lake City. In all seriousness, he is announced officially as out for the remainder of the season with a lower body injury, not related to the hand injury he suffered earlier this year. This is his third season-ending injury so far. I mean, he's on his 7th year of eligibility right now, and they announced on ESPN that he is eligible for an 8th year of eligibility with medical redshirt status. So Isaac Wilson is a measurably worse option compared to a fully healthy Cam Rising. I do not think Isaac Wilson is as bad as the injured version of Cam Rising that we saw last week against Arizona State. TCU and Josh Hoover. Yes, Utah defense, coached by Morgan Scalley, is going to be salty. Josh Hoover's shown an ability to put up points. He has good options at receiver. Cam Cook needs to be more productive out of the backfield. The more I talk about this one, the more that I realize how much I just I just don't like it. Don't like it. I do not actually have a lean on that at all. Yikes. Oh. Number 4. I tried to fight it. Okay, let's talk about my my picks of the week, right? So we are going to keep the same spirit. So I'm going to pull it up here. But we are going to pick a game that I feel really confident about, a game that I think is a coin toss, and a game that I'm like, all those games I said I wouldn't touch, or that I'm just kind of like, there's something weird going on here. I'm going to pick one of those two. And we made a little bit of a comeback last week. Okay. We were 6-9. Nice. And thankfully there was no mathematical way that we could have ended up 9-11, because if I went 2 weeks in a row with number combinations suggestive of something at all, I would have been thoroughly upset. So we're at 9-12 on the season now. We've started to kind of claw our way back. Let's hope that, we can see all green chiclets this week. So we're going to go with my first game, and that'll be the game that I feel immeasurably confident in. And that is going to be Clemson over Virginia. Okay. I feel pretty good about that pick. I like what I've seen from Clemson. I talked about it before. Give me the Tigers. Up next, my coin flip game is going to be Tennessee over Bama. This is the first time that Bama has made the picks list so far this year. Same can be said for Virginia, although Clemson has been here a few times. And the last pick is going to be one that features teams that have both been on here before. Give me Arkansas over LSU at home. I'm going a little more risky on this. I understand. I am taking I'm taking 2 betting underdogs this week, whereas last week I only took one. I hope it pays off. I hope it pays off. That's all I'll say about it. We're going to ride positive vibes into this, okay? So there you have it. Clemson over Virginia, Tennessee over Bama, Arkansas over LSU. This has been a fantastic episode, as always. Thoroughly enjoy any of the first-time viewers that we got out here. I liked the live experience. It kind of made me feel like at any given moment somebody could be watching, which kind of made me key in a little bit more on trying to stay focused. Of course, I failed. But again, I'm going to continue to try to get better. If you're wondering why, like, the lapse in content creation, it wasn't because I was, like, just superiorly struggling to figure out how to do the live YouTube streaming. It's because I'm in school right now for the military, and have been waking up exceptionally early most mornings. And as we're getting ready to get into the meat and potatoes of this week's schedule, I didn't want to... I didn't want to not make a video for this coming week, even though I know that I missed my full recap video, and this is once again a day late. So that said, I'm going to try to get back on schedule the following week, but no promises, because I will still be in school all the way through November 1st. So please bear with me and understand that every like, every comment, whether it's a handful, whether it's none, I appreciate it all the same, just because this is giving me an outlet to talk about the sport that I love so much. And while I'm not always right, I'm not the most well-informed and well-read analyst out there. This has given me a relationship with the game that I have truly, truly enjoyed exploring. And it's just another way to add a layer of expectation or enjoyment, because now that I've kind of voiced opinions on these games, I get to watch them with a little bit more fervor, because it's like, man, don't make me look bad, right? And even if I do, like, and I look stupid, I'm cool with it, because I'm going to keep talking, I'm going to keep giving my thoughts, my opinions, and I'll eventually get better at all aspects of this. So I will catch you guys next time. I'm wrapping this up with just a few minutes to spare before putting my kiddos to bed, so I can actually go hang out with my wife the rest of the evening before not seeing her for the rest of the weekend, sadly. I won't elaborate on that too much. I just want to say thank you to everybody that was here, and I will catch you guys.